Hi, I'm Priscilla, an alcoholic. And I have been through the process with the Big Book Steps Study sponsor, a loving higher power, and meetings like these, and working my amends and practicing 10, 11, and 12 for the day. Thank you, Sandy, for inviting me. I asked her, kind of give me an idea. Should I start from the beginning, or should I just talk about, because I've never spoken. I had spoken at one anniversary years ago before I came into Big Book Step Study, so you can imagine. I started drinking at the age of 11 and a half, 12, somewhere in there. I came from a redneck family from Medway, and my stepfather was a World War II vet with a lot of PTSD, untreated, and so I saw a lot of drinking. He used alcohol to soothe him, and my mother was not an alcoholic. She had to watch him, so she could not drink. And I saw a lot of good times, actually, and I wanted to grow up to be, drinking like them. But there were other things going on in the house, too, and I was a very shy, quiet, and confused little girl. I had a lot of secrets. I started having secrets at the age of 4, and that's not what made me an alcoholic. Alcoholics come from very good homes. Some people just don't have dysfunctional homes, and they still become alcoholics. So I stopped blaming my parents somewhere along the road in my recovery. It took me a long time, though, I'll tell you. So I used alcohol at an early age because it changed me and it hid my feelings. And I thought that was the real me when I drank. I said, well, this is the real me. This is, what is that saying? In vino veritas, in wine there is truth, I believed all that hogwash. And I used alcohol, like I said, for the effect. And when I took my first drink, I had that physical compulsion right off the bat. And when I wasn't drinking, I was thinking about drinking, obsessing, where can I get it? Because at that age, you can't get it very easily. So we had to steal it from our parents' liquor cabinets or, stuff like that. And around the age 13, my father came to me and said, have you been drinking the whiskey? Because your mother made a highball and it didn't taste like it had anything in it. And I said, yes. And there wasn't any consequences. He said, well, if you want to drink it, fine, but don't spoil it by watering it down. And so there were no consequences, for my doing that. And so I went about, muddled my way through school. I had been an A student before I picked up a drink, and my marks started going down directly in proportion to my drinking. I started settling for less. I muddled my way through school. I hung around with 2 different crowds, the college kids, and there were only 2 crowds back then, the college kids and the business kids, the winners and the losers, or whatever you want to call them. I was always going back and forth between 2 crowds. And I rather hang around with the ones who weren't striving a lot to do a lot because I felt comfortable. But I did go on to school, kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to college. I had that fear of failure and fear of success that I heard about in the program when I first came in. I had that feeling. when I graduated. But the college was paid for because my biological father died in World War II, and my mother remarried this man not too long after. And I repeated her pattern later on in life. I repeated her pattern. So I went to nursing school with the fear of failure and the fear of success. And so I sabotaged. I got pregnant and had to leave school, and I had 2 years under my belt of school. So I got married. I thought I'd met my knight in shining armor, and he was an adult child of an alcoholic. He did not drink. In fact, no, I'm not even going to say that. So I went off and thought I was going to live happily ever after, dropped out of school, and picked up my LPN instead of my RN because I had enough training to do that. And then I became a workaholic. I brought my alcoholism into the marriage. I brought my alcoholism everywhere I went. That marriage lasted 10 years. He just didn't know what hit him. He was so disappointed to find out what I was really like. And I had 3 children because I thought that was the only thing I ever did well. They came out beautiful, and I gave no credit to him or God. It was all my creation. And so, I had the 3 children, and I felt like the 4th child in the family. I felt like that little 12-year-old girl who had never grown up. I drank as much as I could, as often as I could. I was not a nice person to my husband or to my kids. I worked a lot to get away from, I volunteered for every overtime there was. And also, he didn't like to work, so I had to. He had his faults, too. And the marriage lasted 10 years, and I had moved many times, and I had changed jobs many times in that 10 years. And it was all my idea to move. I always tried to change the outside to make the inside feel better. I didn't know anything about alcoholism, AA, or anything at that point. But I took a job at a detox center, and they never asked me if I had a drinking problem or a drugging problem. This is back in 1974. There just wasn't those questions back then. And I loved that job. I went there as a full-blown alcoholic. I came into work hungover, that washed-out feeling that you have in the morning after you drink. I didn't know about the morning drink. I loved that job, and I found out later on that it was because I had that connection between the alcoholic and me, that bond, that I didn't even know what it was. But I loved the job. And right about that time, I got divorced from my first husband because I thought I had had enough, believe it or not. I thought I had had enough of him. And he didn't even drink. He just didn't like to work. But so I immediately met another man, because that's what I always did, even in school, even in elementary school. It was always a boy, or all the way up the line. And I met another man who used to come to the detox center to see a friend, and then he started coming there to see me from a distance. Back then, we used to wear short skirts, and I wore a short uniform because I was very immature. And he used to come to watch me bend over and take blood pressures. Yeah. Nice way to start a relationship. But He wanted to go out with me. I didn't want to go out with him. I was, I just wasn't interested, but all of a sudden it seemed like a good idea. I took him home one night from a meeting and he never left. And a year later we got married. He brought his green trash bags to the house and I started marriage number 2, and he was in the program. So I said, working at the detox and going to meetings with him, because that's where he used to take me on a date. And a raffle ticket and friendlies after. That was our date. And I was starting to get a clue that if I pulled the shenanigans that I did in my first marriage, this was not going to have a shot. And so I decided to come in to the program with him. And I did have a clue that maybe alcohol had something to do with my insanity. I thought I was a crazy lady. That was my problem. Alcohol was my solution. I had it backwards, So I came into the program, and there are no wrong reasons for coming in. Anything that gets you here is fine. Don't let anybody tell you different. Come, no matter what. And that's what I did. I wasn't ready. I wasn't through drinking. I didn't know it at the time. I tried to stop, and I stopped, and then I picked up. And then I stopped, and then I picked up. And this went on for 16 years, all through that marriage. And I had another child because got to have another child. And, I just couldn't leave the drink down. I was going to step meetings once a week. And then I put the book away until next week. And that was my 1 day a week step meeting with no discussion with a sponsor, because I didn't use a sponsor. I didn't do anything you told me to do. I was defiant. I was that 12-year-old girl trying to act like a grown-up, and I wasn't doing very well. And that's why I wasn't staying sober, because I wasn't recovering, I used, like I said before, I changed the outside to make the inside feel better. I continued to move. I continued to change jobs. I continued to change husbands. I divorced him after 18 years. When I divorced him, I was 2 years sober, and I told myself, if I don't leave him, because of him, that I wouldn't stay sober, which was a lot of crap. I wasn't recovered. I wasn't recovering. I was going through the motions, not taking the suggestions. And then I met husband number 3, because that's what I do. And but this man had it. He had it. He had God in his life. He had recovery. He had everything you'd want in a man. And but he wouldn't marry me. He was smart. We dated for 7 years. And finally I said, I'm too old to be somebody's girlfriend. Really. Still trying to manipulate and everything. Well, anyway, he had his agenda, and he finally proposed to me, and we did get married. We got married in 2001, and we went to meetings together. He was great at a meeting. In fact, that was what impressed me about him. In addition to his looks and his smile and his kiss and his everything else, was the way he talked at meetings. He was not afraid to talk about God. I mean, he did not leave God out of his talks at all. And I was just like, But we got married in 2001, and I still wasn't recovering. You know, I had anger, residual anger from all my stuff. And, you know, he had a stroke in 2005. So we had 10 years before he had his stroke being together. And then he had a stroke in 2005 and he died in 2015. So we had another 10 years together. And I stayed with him. I loved him, you know, and, you know, people said to me, how do you do it? And I said, I love him, I love him, I love him. And we had a bond. But during this time, it started to get rough, and he started to, you know, towards the end, he started to resist my care. And one of the things that really hurts me is when somebody doesn't want my help. And that's part of my thing that I have to work on too, is learning how to handle it when somebody doesn't want your help. Not everybody wants my brand of sobriety or my brand of anything. You know, I am not the great I am. But he had me almost in tears a few times towards the end, because he was starting to fight with me. And I hit a spiritual bottom, which is what got me to the Big Book Step Study. I knew I wasn't being spiritual, you know, in this situation. I was reacting instead of responding. In other words, the tears, the pain I was feeling was not something I wanted to feel. And so I started to come to Big Book Step Study meetings, kicking and screaming, just like I did in the beginning. And I came the first time, I absolutely loved what I heard. I loved the no bullshit, you know, that you get at other meetings, you know, the discussion meetings, the open meetings, the drunkalogs, and the, you know, it's all necessary. And I still go to those meetings. But I need to know I can come to a place where there's a solution. I want to hear about the solution. The first night I went to Big Book Step Study, they gave me 164 to read, and I barely got through it. I was in tears. It touched me so, you know, abandon yourself to God, you know. It really touched me. And so I got a good sponsor who had a good bunch of women she had taken through, and her, you know, and I did it with her. And when I said, oh, but I don't, you know, I don't have any fears. I don't have any fears. I'm not afraid of anything. You better be afraid of me. I still have that little attitude, you know, like, kill before you get killed. Leave your husband before he leaves you. You know, leave the job before they fire you. I always thought I had that control I had to give that up. You know, I had to really get humble, and I didn't even like the word humble. I didn't like the word gratitude. But you know what? A couple years later, here I am, and I like those words now. I strive for those, you know, words. Gratitude is an action word. It's not just a word, you know. And humility is knowing who you are and who you're capable of being and striving for it. And you don't know who you are until you do that fourth step and read it to your sponsor. I found out things about myself that I just didn't have a clue about, you know. Things I don't like to look at, you know. So I went through the process and I started sponsoring women. And because that's the agreement, you know, when you get through, you take somebody else through. And I did that. And, you know, my husband is gone now, and I'm retired from nursing, and I have all the time in the world to give back, you know, give service, because that's part of the recovery: unity, fellowship, and service. And I absolutely love meetings. I go to meetings every day. I realized last night that I hadn't gone to a meeting yesterday, and I said, oh, I better go to a meeting. And I don't usually go to that meeting, but I went because that's my medicine, you know. And when I share, you know, when I hear people share at a discussion meeting or an open meeting, I can spot somebody who's doing the big book. It's just so obvious. You know, there's such a clarity and purity of the message that they give. You know, it's a solution. It's the solution today. I have no reservations about alcohol. I haven't had a desire to drink, you know, and it's a good life. It's a good life. The way I do my day is I get up a couple of hours before I have to be anywhere, and I get my coffee first. Still got to get that coffee first. Then I sit down and I say my prayers, and I read my literature. I have about 6 books that I read, 6 one day at a time books, you know, messages. And then I plan my day. It's okay to make plans, it's just you don't project the outcome. And I say, you know, the serenity prayer, thy will be done, not mine. And if I'm confused about what I want to do for the day, not that I don't trust my instincts, I do trust my instincts, but I want a little more direction. So if I'm like, when I leave here today and I don't know what I want to do, I'll take 4 little pieces of paper and I'll put 4 different things that I can do, and I roll them up and I go like this. And I say, okay, God, thy will be done. Take me where you want me to be. And I'll pick one, and I'll sometimes I'll say, I don't want to do that. But I will. And I do. And I always run into somebody that I want to talk to or wants to talk to me, or maybe a newcomer that gives me their number. And, you know, it just is the little game I play with myself that it's no harm, you know, and it's always turned out good for me. The other night, I picked one, said go to a meeting, and I said, you know, I don't really want to go to a meeting. So I says, I'm going to do it again, and if I pick, didn't I pull go to a meeting again? I did. It's just, he's so in charge. He's so in charge, and I love it. You know, it's not that I can't make decisions. I mean, it's just, you know, when you get my age and you're retired and you're living, you know, a single life, you need a little adventure like that, even if it's just a little shake. It's the only gamble I do. I don't buy lottery tickets. I don't, you know, but it's the only gambling I do is those little notes. But I don't know what else to say about Big Book Step Study other than I just hope you've gotten the feeling from me that it's so worth it. It's so worth it. And believe me, I am recovered from the obsession to drink. I am not recovered from alcoholism. I have it, and I'm going to have it till the day I die. So I need to do my work till the day I die. And one day at a time. I understand that now. I keep it in the day. Sometimes I only keep it in the moment. So important to be where you are, you know, and do what you're doing, and not be in 50 different directions, you know, and so that's it for me. And if you're happy, tell your face. Thank you.